So COVID gave birth to the BLM protests. Kind of let it all out. And COVID has outlasted and overshadowed the protests. Trump's kind of the same. You could argue Trump's divisive rhetoric gave birth to the movements, and Trump never goes away. It's like the cockroach you never get rid of. I'm not saying Trump's a cockroach. I'm just saying Trump and COVID seem to outlast and out-microphone, out-amplify everything. So what happens to the future of racial justice in America? I'm Rob Nelson. It's Rob Nelson Live.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. My name's Rob Nelson. I used to have a talk show on Fox, a show on Fox News, but news in America is so produced. I don't care if you think it's left, right, center, fake. You passed tougher legislation to deal with the paparazzi after what happened with you and your family.
I think it's very important that we focus on rebuilding.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am live streaming again from Jacksonville, Florida. You can see the lights behind me, the boat lights over the ocean. Not really. It's actually over a pool, although there is an ocean 2 blocks away. I'm in Jacksonville gearing up as part of the listening tour for a really cool interactive citywide forum that I'm doing as part of Rob Nelson Live, where we're bringing people together from all over the community, from activists, BLM activists, to community activists, community organizers, to law enforcement, former and current law enforcement, to pastors, to business people, black and white. Jacksonville's a historically pretty racially divided city, and certainly, like a lot of cities, geographically divided racially. Economically, there's a lot of racial division, and it's a perfect template for sort of my idea that if people just come together and talk, if they actually connect and have a dialogue and listen, they'll get somewhere. Because right now, Twitter is, think about it. Twitter's just a giant hate fest, I mean, everybody's just yelling louder. It's like you use your social media platform to, like, I say something, then you say something louder. You can't actually make more noise, like, auditorily, but you just make a more aggressive, a more dynamic, a more controversial, a more provocative, offensive, however you want to put it, statement. And it gets louder and louder and louder. And nobody listens except the people who already agree with you, right? Nobody listens to you on social media. Well, they might listen, then they go back at you, or they agree with you, right? So we have our social media bubbles. We all stay in the bubble. We all say what we think. We all say what we think about the people we don't like. They're here, we're here. And nobody's really changing their mind about anything. And actually, there's almost no common ground coming out of it. Nothing really comes together for change. So to the protests, think about it for a second. The protest happened, right? Obviously, George Floyd's death triggered it. But I'm convinced, and I've said this for a while, had we not had, hi, Sheila Powell, I try to talk to you guys when you give me the little shout outs on the screen, and obviously super interactive. So want your comments, your feedback, weigh in, through the show. We'll get to them as many as we can, but I've got 3 great guests too. So I gotta move, gotta go fast. So COVID really, everyone was locked down, right? I was in LA. It was just this massive lockdown, right? The whole place. I mean, it was like The Walking Dead without the zombies, everybody with the freeways were empty. I was like, this is what it's like to live in LA before traffic. It was awesome. And people were so cramped up, so confined, going crazy over being locked down. And then you had the George Floyd thing, and people were like looking for a reason to react, to do something. It was a perfect storm for people to go, we're hitting the streets. Forget about the disease. We're out. We got a reason. And so people did. Those protests were loud. They were powerful. They were impactful. They were also violent in many cases, but they happened. And they triggered a national awareness. And you saw everybody lining up, whether they bought it or not, right? Corporations were like on board. The NBA's, so we're putting the banners on the court. The NFL, Roger Goodell suddenly had a change of heart. Oh, I didn't realize we haven't done enough on racism. Oh, please, kneel, do whatever you want. I mean, they're all hypocritical, right? They're just doing what they think their product and their customers or clients or audience, who's the buyers of their product, want. But I said from the beginning, they're going to die out. Eventually, people are going to get tired of protesting. It's just going to stop. The diehards won't. The diehards are always there. But most people will move on. And if you look, it's happened. You go through a news feed. Today, I did it. I went through CNN, Fox, go through a couple. There's not a single story about protests, Black Lives Matter, nothing. Way down at the bottom of CNN's feed, there's a little story about how the officer Derek Chauvin in Minnesota, who is charged with murder for George Floyd, is being allowed to, he's on bail for $1 million, but he's allowed to move to another state till his trial because someone's going to kill him otherwise. That's about it. Everything is Trump, COVID, the debates, the election, all that stuff that truthfully is just another big spiral of whatever, right? Like nobody's minds are changing from these stupid debates. That's not dialogue either. Our politicians have no idea how to dialogue. But the fact is, the protests happened, outrage happened, and eventually outrage fades away. What doesn't fade away is the actual problem, whether it's racial injustice through policing, whether it's racial economic inequalities, systemic or not. You can argue whether they're systemic or not or how much, but they exist. You can't pretend they don't exist. You can't pretend there's not overall a disparity between blacks and whites in America overall. And it'd be hard to argue that a lot of it wasn't laid down by a history of how white people treated black people for the bulk of our country's history, even if you'd say it's changed a lot, and it has. 25, 30 years ago, there were a whole lot of places where black people were still treated like second-class citizens. Some people might argue there still are, but it's changed. But the fundamental inequalities and the social and economic inequalities exist. And you've got a lot of urban impoverished communities that are largely black, and they're suffering. That isn't changing because everyone protests. It only changes if those protests lead to actual change beyond posting squares on your Instagram. Is that happening? Well, not really, but could it? And if it did, what does it look like? Tonight, I kind of going to get in with my guests to sort of a debate, an argument, a discussion around that, because the reality is there's an argument for equality and there's an argument for fairness, and they're not the same thing. And some people might argue you're never getting equality because you can't make up for what happened. And don't anyone pretend it didn't happen. I mean, anybody who wants to walk out there and say, you can say it's not my fault, I didn't do it, my ancestors didn't do it. Barack Obama was president, Oprah Winfrey, sports figures, Will Smith, all kinds of powerful, successful black Americans everywhere, growing black middle class. That might all be true. But don't pretend our history wasn't one of serious systemic racism toward black people. So can you undo that, or do you just have to go forward on a different map? All right, I got three great guests. I'm going to start with two of them. V-Land, welcome to my show. Stacey Adams, welcome to my show. Let me give you a quick on this. Stacey Adams in the shades down below is he's a singer, a musician. He's a blues. What do we decide? He's a blues Southern soul artist, I think is how we decided to describe him. Yes. The shades he's wearing. He could, it's kind of a mogul-like thing. I admit he's outdressed me, but let's be honest, that's never a shocker for anyone to outdress me. I do have the classic black tee on. Up above, we got V-Land, who by his name, is clearly like you could even imagine. What's V-Land? I'm just going to tell you for my description of V-Land is he is a deal maker. And I mean that in a positive sense. V-Land makes deals. He's one of those guys who finds, you find it and legitimately deal maker. I mean, you find business opportunities and you connect people, right? That's how a lot of deals get made. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's kind of, sort of like what Donald Trump sort of was, except with the real estate. But you partner. But legally. What's that?
But legally.
Yeah, and legally. You partner people together and you make deals. And he's done a lot of deals with sports figures. Gary Sheffield was one of his business partners. Did a lot of high-profile sports guys and in a lot of different areas. We don't need to get into your actual business stuff, you guys. You can feel free to share what you want, but we'll post on the screen whatever you want. But I want to dive right into this discussion, and I want to start. I want to sort of start it out on this idea of, and I think V-Land, I should maybe let you take a first shot at it, which is, the protests happened, the situation is rough, and yet what comes next and how do we actually do it? So give me your quick picture of it, and then we'll dive in from there, because it's a big thing to unpack.
First, we got to vote. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't vote, you can't change the laws, and if you can't change the laws, you can't have any power. You can't have any safety. See, we weren't taught when I was growing up. We weren't taught that what voting is. It didn't seem like it really changed. But seriously, once you change the laws, you can change. You can have power and put people in positions literally to make real changes. And I know a lot of people say, well, we tried, but we came a long way, and we got a long way to come. But I'm serious, we don't vote. We can protest. I think that's a good form of way to get people attention. But you got to do action. You got to get things done, because if the law change with the cops or certain things, you make it whereas everybody is accountable, we can actually see some changes. It's not just going, go ahead, what you about to say?
Okay. So that's fair. But I want to get down to the real issue here. Okay. So yeah, everyone should vote. Stacy, are black people disempowered compared to white people?
Definitely. I feel like the problem is well beyond voting. Voting is a great action. It's a great privilege that we fought so diligently for. But to be honest with you, I think it's more of a spiritual warfare. It's more of a foundational warfare. You know, as I've always said before, when you have a crack in a foundation, you know, voting will help put somebody in office, but it won't change the crack in the foundation. You have to rebuild a foundation. And I think one of the foundational problems is, and I know we're probably gonna get to it, and hopefully I'm not moving too fast. One of the foundational problems is the lack of African-American fathers in homes, and the lack of the correct mentors around to help put our mindset in a certain position, because we've been for a long time.
And I apologize if I interrupt you guys. I will just a little bit at times. I have a problem with that, and you feel free to interrupt me too. But I wanna push back into that point a little bit. So let's take an example of something like a George Floyd, right? So you I think made the point at one point that you think black people don't take enough responsibility for what happens. How would you frame it that way? You know, like, in other words, what should black people behave differently? It's not the cops' fault that they're abusive.
Well, I would like to say this. So I don't sound like Candace Owens, but I'm gonna sound like Stacey. The thing I would like to say is I think a lot of times is how you react to a situation. It's a reaction. When you react to a situation, that can cause another action. Like, say, for instance, if you pull me over, right, Rob, and you say, let me see your license. And I say, man, kiss my ass. And you be like, hold up. And I'd be like, no, but now if I hand you my license, and I'd be cool. You go look at my license. If you come back and say, Stacey Allen, which has happened to me, your license is suspended. Now, at that point in time, it happened to me right on 285. I got pulled over. Cop got out, spit on the ground. So I could tell he was in a hostile manner, but because my father taught me respect authority, but also at the same time, stand your ground the correct way. The cop asked me for my license. I already knew my license was suspended, but I gave it to him, hoping that he would either say, well, get somebody to come pick you up. We're going to tow your car. Or if he take me to jail, I have to figure it out from there. The cop came back and they took me to jail. So my thing is I got in the car, they handcuffed me, put my arms behind my back and locked me up. But that was something that I had put myself in. So, but I was taught by my father how to try to deal with the situation.
Okay. VLAN, I want to let you jump in, but so Stacy, so wait. So let's just pick the examples we've had. Take George Floyd, right? Mm-hmm. So George Floyd should have complied with the cops?
I think that George Floyd, when he was sitting in the car, that if he would have stayed in the car, we may would have never had this conversation. Now, what they did was totally wrong. Whether you're black, white, or whatever color, you never should put your knee on a man's neck for 8 minutes. That can lead to death. But at the end of the day, sometimes we have to know when to comply, so that way we won't die. You see what I'm saying? Because
VLAN?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not saying, I get it. And I don't want to turn this into something it's not. You do sound a little like Candace Owens, but I get that you're not. But I mean, but you're basically saying, he's saying, as I understand it, look, black people need to take, if you're not following what the cops tell you, bad stuff will happen. It's not okay that they knelt on your neck and killed you, but too many people don't do what they say and then problems ensue.
But his first instant, when the cop came up, they had a gun out. He said, man, my hand was already up. He was laying down begging and saying, please don't shoot me. He said, I've been shot before. Don't shoot me. He even turned around and looked at the man's eye and said, please do not shoot me. And he was just saying he had his up. My point is that it seemed like the guy just wanted to take him out of the van. Then they cut. So there's a lot of things happened before they even got to the point in that. So go back to the point he said about the father. When you black, nobody asks you when you pulling over. I've never been arrested. My dad raised me when my mother died when I was 12. Dad, I never had any issue. I'm a licensed to carry a firearm. But if I pull over, they ain't gonna ask you if you have a dad. That's two separate issues about not being raised by your dad. When the cop pull up, he ain't gonna say, "Are you a kid by yourself?" He just see a nice brother in a nice car in the wrong and just in a Beverly Hills somewhere and just pull you over. So that's a different situation where racism is like that.
Do black people suffer disproportionate discrimination from cops? And secondly, are black people disadvantaged to white people? Do we owe you something?
Well,
I mean,
Go ahead.
You go first.
Well, the thing about it, just for 1 second, Vince, I want to correct one thing.
Yeah.
I was speaking on a teaching, not a cop asking me about whether I was raised by a father or not. But
No, I
understanding
understand though, but we conflict. A lot of people conflict the two of them together by saying that just because you're singers, that's a different issue. Like saying because everybody should have equal right, whether you didn't have a father or didn't have a mother, or you poor, whether you got 100 million or whether that's what I'm saying. That's
fair enough. Do black people get the argument that comes down when you're at the protest? The thing what the most extreme side says, and it's not just the fringe, is black people have been screwed by white people. Cops screw over black people aren't treated fairly, and a lot of white people push back and go, come on, everything isn't about being black. Take some responsibility for your own lives. Like, don't blame us for everything. That's the harshest way to put it.
Well, definitely we're owed something, but the question is we going to get it? I think the problem come in when you focus on what you owe. Like, if people owe me money now, I can get so frustrated and miss the money that I'm headed to, or miss where I'm going. So I think a lot of times you got to understand what you're owed and what you're going to get back. So a lot of times we get caught up in what we're owed, and we were promised something, whether it was 40 acres and a mule or whatever was promised, we haven't gotten that yet. And we could tell what's going on. We're giving away trillions of dollars, and the black man or woman hadn't gotten anything as far as reparations. So we understand that we know by now, by seeing all these trillions of dollars come through the government and all these stimulus packages, we supposed to have been stimulated as African-American people. But now what do we do? The question is, what do we do when we're not paid what we think we're owed? Okay, but so before you go, VLAN, Larry Williams put up there, white people, basic human rights, that's all we want. White people owe us that. Stop targeting us. Right. Are black people targeted by white people? Because a lot of white people go, we're not doing that. So you guys got to be honest with me here. Let's take, honestly, are you guys targeted by white people as black people?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we are. I mean, in different situations, a good example. You was talking about my friend Gary Sheffield. He was driving a Rolls Royce with him and Winky Wright going down to Miami from Tampa. They pulled him over and searched the car, throw it out. They taped this on video, taped them just like that. So if you got a Rolls Royce, you're worth $100 million. I mean, so what I'm saying, that they actually made them get out the customer. I know who you are. I don't care who you are. So my point is that wouldn't happen to anybody that's white. So what I'm saying is, it's not about, to me, I don't want anything from them, but that don't mean my people don't need what to owe for them with some interest now. If that's the situation, but I'm not focused on me personally because I don't need anything from nobody. So my point is that if they owe something from us, it's gonna take a long time, right, to get it. But that don't mean we're gonna stop pushing.
So where do you guys? So, and I want to bring Glenn in a minute. Where do you guys disagree then? Because if I'm listening, you're both saying you're owed something, and in fairness, Stacey, when I talked to you, you seemed pretty clearly that you were a pretty clear argument that you felt that black people are making a mistake in trying to get equality, that it isn't going to happen.
I think you got to understand it, and I want people to understand this right here. You got equality and you got fair, right? Me, you, and V-Land on here right now. We're not the same color. We look different. So mentally, we're going to see each other. Somebody's going to feel superior than the other. So at the end of the day, it's human nature to feel more superior depending on whether it's smart or whether it's physical. It's like that. But I think fairness is this. If me and V-Land, we're in the desert, and I have a jug of water, I have a choice. Now, if he asks me for some water and I say no, that's unfair. But now if he asking for some water equality, I'm supposed to give him half, equal. Give him half of my water. But fair is I can give him a sip or he can give me a sip, vice versa. So I think what we have to focus on is being treated fair, because equality, the only way we can get equality, if we get 400 years, somebody that worked for us for 400 years for free, then after them 400 years, we start saying, now let's start right here. We're on the same page. So unless we get 400 years of free labor, how do we ever get equality?
But we need to be working on first equal rights on everything first. So let's can we believe? See, first of all, most people don't believe we should have equal rights, literally equal on anything. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen people really get pulled over, and I'm sitting there saying, some white guy just literally just say, I ain't getting out the car, and I dare you to do anything to me. And the guy just sit there, and I'm like, I even said something to a cop one time. I said, you gonna let him talk to you that way? He said, you know.
Well, so, and Glenn, I'm bringing you up in 60 seconds, but you know, so is that the situation, right? When you say white people, you know, you say, VLAN, that white people that were not equal rights.
Right.
But I would look and go. I do think there's bias. I do think there's discrimination. I do think there is some racial profiling often in police forces, and by people in general, we racially profile. But you really think black people don't get the same rights as white people? And I'm saying that partly is
I know what you're saying. Yeah. See, racism is sophisticated now. It's not like just calling the N-word or whatever. It's something like that. When you go to the judge or you go in, some people they can't keep you from getting a loan, but they can also sabotage for you for a business or something that's different. It's a lot of situations where you allocated funds and incentives or something for the people that need it in the area, so you cut them out. So it's the same thing they do with gerrymandering in the voting situation. You get certain people, you know that you're going to win your seat all the time, so you put everything in the same seat. So if you don't change that, you can't get fair representation. It's like going to court with no lawyer. You know, I've never been to court. Even since I was 21, I ever had a traffic ticket. I always had a lawyer because I understood that's how they deal with the law.
Stacy, is he right?
To a certain degree, but like I said, I've seen people go to court without a lawyer that knew the law.
But are you pretty much a pro-black nationalist type personality? Even though you sound conservative in some ways, you're really about like give black people power, but black people got to take the power themselves.
I'm a realist, and what I mean by realist, I believe in economic empowerment. The only way you can start getting fair treatment is through economic empowerment. And by doing that, is creating and establishing businesses and hiring people and getting them in a position where they can have finances to do better and do more for themselves. I'm not one to depend on the government. I'm not one to want to depend on a white or Mexican or anybody else. I want to depend on us empowering ourselves and doing things to help build our communities up.
But see, my problem is even before that. What I'm saying is that, say if we all made, right now, each one of us made $100 million, right? But if we don't have equal rights, we could get pulled over and killed the same way. You see what I'm saying? So money is not the issue to me. It's a start for us to get better as our community, but that's not you don't get out if you just got money. That's what I'm trying to say. We still have to solve the problem.
All right, let me bring Glenn in here. Glenn, join our conversation. Glenn Cummings he's a family man. That's right. He's a former vet. He's a former cop. He's a former vet, former cop. Well, he's a veteran. He's a former cop. And it's a PI and security firm. Glenn, thanks for joining into the conversation.
All right. What's up, gentlemen?
So I'll give you a second to sort of respond to what you've heard, but I'm going to frame it this way. And I want this. Again, I'm not trying to get an argument here. I'm trying to get clarity for people out there, because I think the unspoken elephant in the room is that so many white people, whether they will admit it or not, even liberals, although liberals will never admit it, feel, and there's a certain white guilt attached to it, but feel like it's almost like we owe black people something. And that's almost like a sort of a hand-me-down. I feel bad. And the other side of it is white people go, you know what? I know they got screwed, but seriously, their communities are a mess. They got people walking around shooting each other. It's not our fault. Cops aren't to blame for the fact that there's all this violence in their communities. Like they should, don't blame us for that. That's the elephant in the room.
It's a big elephant, to be totally honest with you. And if you don't mind, I want to start off on level 10. Level 10 is, I'm gonna add what you said. You said Trump is not a cockroach. I'm gonna say he is a cockroach. So let's get that out the way. All right. So when it comes to this generational thing, I'm gonna sum it up in this kind of like aspect. Being a former cop, I could tell you right now that the color blue, let me say it again, the color blue means that you follow a code. And this particular code means no matter what your other blue brothers do, you're going to some kind of way support them by either being silent if you don't agree with them, or you're going to be connected to them as they move forward to do the things they did. When it comes to what you were talking about with George Floyd, all of those officers out there knew that was wrong. Every single one of them, including the one with his knee on his neck. All of them knew it was wrong, but they didn't do anything. So they took the silent role. The system in itself says particularly, let's train our officers to understand one thing and one thing only. At most, in most cases, you'll lose your job. Let me say that again. At most, in most cases, you'll lose your job.
But Glenn, here's my question to you as a former cop. And by the way, there's no one on the planet who can justify what happened to George Floyd. I would argue that went beyond policing. That guy had it out for those two knew each other. There was bad blood there. That was personal. I think he was a racist on top of it, but he also didn't like George Floyd. So it was a double whammy. But that said, I mean, I guess the question becomes, do you think most cops, as a former cop, do you think cops really are systematically more unfair to black people? Is it because they're encountering them in a less economic state? Although at the same time, everybody has a story where a black person who was well off driving a car in a neighborhood and gets pulled over.
That's the system. The system is designed to train their officers to pretty much act, in that accord. I wrote down some notes.
Black people? Is the system training them to act toward black people?
Blacks, lower paid people, Hispanics, people of color in general, even white people that are like, as you would say, trailer trash, low income, poverty stricken, stuff like that. The biggest reason is
I'm really offended right now that you just call white people trailer trash. Just want you to know, Glenn. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Trailer trash.
Go ahead. You can say it.
The biggest
redneck
thing with
trash.
No, I'm not gonna say the redneck thing because black people are rednecks too, to a degree. Cops basically will target the ones that they know for a fact that are not going to cause problems for them down the line. The system, remember, you got judges, you got lawyers, you got prosecutors, which are lawyers, you got jailers, which are correctional officers, you have other police officers. So there's a whole long laundry list of people you have to go through to get justice. You go back to George Floyd, is what's going on right now. You go to Breonna Taylor, they gave them the money and then all of a sudden they dropped, the charges that needed to be, brought forward. You go to any of them. I mean, any of them as far back as you could go. The system protects the police. The system is designed to protect the police. Police officers are taught in the academy that don't do wrong. Don't embarrass me meaning the system, me meaning the police department, but I'm going to back you up, and your brother police officer over here, who's also black or Spanish or white or green or whatever, he's going to back you up with either support, silence, or whatever it's going to take.
So question to all three of you. Are we a fundamentally racist society? I mean, do you honestly, are most white people, look at it this way, are most white people racist at some level? And even think of it this way, somebody watching this show right now, just take a look at the screen, everybody. You got me up here in the corner and I'm white as can be. I mean, I got a nice tan, but I'm pretty white. You got Stacy underneath me and he's about as black as you can be as I am white. We're like color contrast. And then we got you two guys on the right, and you're a little lighter skinned, and you're both black. And if people see a screen of 3 black men and a white guy, and I tell you, people, even though they're subconsciously, they're making assumptions of what we look like at a certain level. Stacey looks like he could be like a big gangster kind of guy. He could be like a Suge Knight, high level,
What's up?
You know what I mean? Like V-Land looks like he could be a boxer. He's got the shaved head, slight resemblance to OJ. But but I'm just saying. And Glenn looks sort of like
the Denzel type.
I'm just saying they make judgments. So they make judgments.
Can I say
Yeah,
something
jump
right
in.
quick?
I'm done. I went on my
Okay.
little thing. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
This is my whole thing. And this goes back with what the point you just made. In our minds, when you see somebody, when we play basketball, right? When the white team come in, we say they can shoot free throws and 3-pointers. When the black team come in, they say we jumping out the gym when we fast. Because of how the system in the world is set up, it's nowhere around being superior or not superior. That's just life. It's human nature. That's why the lion is what? The king of the jungle. The elephant is considered one of the smartest animals in the jungle. You see an elephant smart, you see a lion fierce. So what I'm saying is when it comes down to blacks and whites, because of not having equality 400 years ago, right? With that long head start with where we are now, it's hard to try to say we're going to get equality. Now, B-Land, last thing I'm going to say for you guys interject. Now, B-Land, you were saying earlier, you said that just because you have $100 million doesn't make you, you can still go through the same thing. But the difference is this. When O.J. Simpson, supposedly, when he went to his trial, he had enough money for a legal team. When you got Johnny down the street, hold, this is what I'm saying, though. Listen, this is what I'm saying. But then you got Leroy down the street who might be accused of the same thing, but can't get an attorney nowhere because he don't have no money. So when I say economic empowerment,
that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying from the beginning. Okay,
so when I say economic empowerment in black people doing more in our communities is because of this. And I told Rob this. I see drug dealers in Chicago, killers in Chicago. I don't see nobody right now marching down the street, burning down the dope houses and pulling the drug deal out for killing the community. Nobody.
Yeah, because they get arrested, they get caught.
Hold on. See what?
You know what I'm saying? They get arrested, they get shot.
Hold on, guys. This is a good point. So, and it's a fair question to ask. Why, when we talk about what, black on black violence, a lot of times people go, that's not the issue. And I think it is a fair issue to bring up that there's enormous black on black violence. And one, I wish the media covered it because, you could get another historic weekend of shootings and dead people in Chicago. And Stacey's question, why don't people go after the drug dealers? Why don't they want to tear down the damage in their own communities? To people not in those communities, it often seems like, well, come on, guys. And again, I'm being devil's advocate, but I also understand why people say that. And I certainly hate that they don't put enough emphasis on black violence in communities because it's politically not convenient to do it when in fact you've got kids getting shot down every day. And that's just disgusting. I don't care who's shooting them. It's got to stop.
It come down to value. And I back up. If I don't show value for V-Land, if I don't show value for for Greg, if I don't show value, who gonna value me? A white man not gonna value me. Rob won't be able to value me if we don't value each other. So my thing,
are you valuing each other? Are you saying black people don't value each other enough?
No, exactly. If I kill V-Land,
I couldn't hear you. Yeah, no.
What I'm saying is this: if I kill V-Land or kill my brother by the droves, why are you gonna have respect for my life? As a white man, why would you care? Because we don't care for each other.
Or even worse, Rob, think about what he's saying. If you turn around and a black man kills another black man and he goes before a white judge, the white judge is probably going to give him limited time in comparison if the black man killed a white man. If the black man killed a white man, it could be the same exact circumstance, situation. That black man will get the maximum time that's allotted to him because the system is designed that way. So now you come back to your communities. It's the same thought process in the communities in regard to it's easier for me to burn my own shit down because they're not gonna come after me for burning down my own shit. They're not gonna come after me.
Why would you want to burn your own shit down?
If the level of anger that's out there makes a person basically feel the rage to do whatever they're doing, and I'm not saying I'm in agreement to vandalizing and burning down communities. I'm just saying I understand, but the key to it is they're not gonna.
I want people to understand that. You're saying you understand, because I think a lot of people don't get that. You understand why that anger is so explosive that you do something that seems so counterproductive, like you literally destroy your own neighborhood,
extreme and everything.
That's the voice of the unheard. Yeah,
makes sense to you too, V-Land? That makes sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But I wanted to ask Glenn, to me, the issue is we know we have to deal with our community. That's been like for years. But the difference is the separate issue. How do we break that, Glenn? This question for you. How do we break that that blue code? See, that's the issue too. Because
I can tell you, it's simple.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really good
How
question.
do we finish
It's a really good question.
Have...
And for everybody out there, what VLAN's getting at is right. The code that Glenn talked about, the cops kind of have cover cops.
How do we break that? How do we make that change? That's what.
Number one, who basically monitors cops? Cops. Internal Affairs monitors the police, right? So when they're talking about debunking and dismissing and deregulating, you know, these law enforcement institutions, as well as corrections, departments of corrections, which they've already started. They already have private prisons in place, making money just like slavery back in the day. And they're trying to do the same thing with police too. But the thing is, if you take a white person who gets pulled over in the examples that y'all gave earlier, he could be in a beat up Volkswagen from 1965, right? And the cop pulls him over, license and registration. Well, what did I do, officer? License and registration. It's always a monotone, you know, kind of thing, because in that cop's mind, I just pulled over this white guy. 9 times out of 10, he's gonna complain on me. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna have to deal with that because he's not gonna go away. Black people will complain, but they usually let it go. They gotta stop letting it go. That's the answer to your question. Well, we have to move forward with the complaint.
Okay. And I think, and I want to play a video in a minute, but about something that happened. But I think one of the challenges is culturally, and I'm stereotyping, but at the same time, stereotypes exist. But and one of you might have said this to me the other day when I talked to y'all on the phone, you know, sort of pre-interviewing for this show. I always talk to my guests for a few minutes before just to have an idea. Is that white people, by and large, are even I mean, maybe Italians kind of the exception to the rule, but we're not as emotionally expressive. We're taught to kind of couch things differently, and even in it's somewhat of an economic thing, but I really do think my interaction with Black people is almost always they're like, say what you think, say what you mean, don't shade it to me, don't pretend something else. And I think they're more. Is that a fair generalization that just culturally, you know, most Black cultures are more now. Back in the day, I wrote it down. There were, and Stacey touched on this a little bit earlier too, but there's some generational things that went on when my grandfather was coming up. And basically what happens is when there was a situation, my grandfather's generation would say, we don't want any trouble, we're just gonna move on. Right. My father's generation would say, can I speak to a manager? If there's a situation, can I speak to a manager? Our generation, Stacey, VLAN, and myself, I am the manager. That's our generation. Right. My son's generation, we're gonna burn this motherfucker down. We're gonna shut y'all down. We're gonna take every single millennial. We're gonna take every single millennial and we're gonna march and we're gonna protest and we're gonna do whatever we need to do, and we're gonna make sure you're gonna respect us. If you want to keep this high ass price gas station in our community, you're gonna match the prices to the same gas station that's across the street in Buckhead. I gotta say that is the best description I have heard generationally of the progression to, I mean, I'm not saying it's okay, but to the logic, I'm not judging it, but to the logic of where people and have gotten in terms of you know, the reaction to originally, hey, don't cause trouble, to, you know, fuck you, we've had it, get out of my face, we'll take you down, I don't care. But that also gets a lot of Black kids and young Black men shot and profiled.
But the difference is that young Black men and young Black women are coincided with young white men and young white women. Look at the marches that are going on right now.
But the white men and women aren't getting it treated. They don't get the same negative treatment for it.
They're tired of us. They're tired of us. And I'm only speaking for the millennials right now. They're tired of us dealing with those generational gaps.
Okay, go ahead.
My grandfather, my father, and my father.
Jump in.
But I don't think anything has changed. That was a great point. And I like the escalation. That was a great point, but I don't think anything changed. Back in the
talking,
day,
ain't we? We're here to talking.
Are you serious?
We talking.
Are you serious?
Hold on, listen.
Okay,
hold
so
on, let me get out.
we said, you know,
Hold on.
Go ahead.
See, this is what I mean. We can respect each other's opinion.
Yeah,
right? And I say you're correct. But what I'm saying is, it's been the same way even back then. My father. Hold on, my father.
Go ahead.
My father. That was Black Panther Party that was on there. You had people back then that was on, we gonna burn this shit down. And then change. You had slaves like Harriet Tubman that we gonna go free our people. So you've always had different people. Like now, every millennial is not like that. You have a few people. I'm gonna show you what I mean. You go burn down a store. Okay, that's bad. That's mess. They got insurance. Okay, cool. They gonna rebuild. The whole catch and what I'm trying to get at is instead of burning down a store, when the last time, like the Black Panthers used to do, when they used to police the communities, to police the police and the communities, when was the last time somebody went to Chicago, went over 2 days, 25 people get killed? When somebody went and pulled a drug dealer out and burned down the dope houses and set the dope houses on the corner, because that's the foundational problem. Now we understand what's going on with the cops. That's a problem. We know racism exists. But what I'm saying is, how do we correct the fundamental problem of us not knowing what to do in damaging situations? Okay. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and VLAN, quick response to that, because you get what he's saying, right?
Right. But my point is that why is it that we're not in a community that over the police, where we can't create, it's all the law, right? You change the law. That's what I'm saying. The law can change whatever you. I had this call with my wife the other day. You can change the law right now that we got to go in the house right now at 8 o'clock. So you can. And
how do you change? How do you change the law? Like VLAN is saying, go back to what he said earlier.
Every police, we're the committee. We oversee it.
Go back to what VLAN said to change the law.
Imagine we
voting.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
No. It's all right. I was telling Glenn to hold on. No, I want you wound up. But
go back to what VLAN said earlier though. To change the laws, vote. To change the laws, vote.
Hold on. I'm going to say though, here's where I'm the differ on this. Yes, voting matters, but our political system is so broken. It is so fractured. The left and the right, the Democrats and Republicans are, in my mind, just two pools of power structure that hold on to power. At the end of the day, you voted people who are Democrats into office in major cities across America. They haven't made changes. No, you can. I'm not being Donald Trump.
No, what I'm saying though, but it's not going to be that simple though. It's ain't like you just vote for somebody to win. You have to do like, let me say the other side got this character in office, right? This guy right here using power. So it wasn't about money. He stayed broke. Anybody can just file bankruptcy 3 times, and he using the power. Wait. So we just need the right people to use the power the other way.
Okay, hold on. I'm not disagreeing with that fundamentally, VLAN. What I'm saying is, if you're fair, Democratic politicians have run most major urban cities for decades, and they have not solved the problems. Barack Obama became elected president. First black president, he did not. He had a Democratic Congress. Hold on. He had a Democratic Congress at the time. All I'm saying is, plenty of people feel the political system is broken. I'm not against. You should run, VLAN. You should get in office. I'm not saying you can't make change. I'm saying most politicians promise and don't deliver. So all I'm getting at is, what's the solution beyond just saying go vote? Because I get the go vote, but I also get people going, why bother? And yet the problems still exist and have to be dealt with no matter who gets elected to office, right?
We have to start on smaller scales. We have to stop focusing on such the big. You spoke earlier about why the marches slowly diminishing. It's because we're so big with it. And Stacey, I gotta check you on this, bro. I promise you, I love you, but I gotta check you on this. When you go back in time, you could name every single person that was murdered by the police or murdered by somebody in regard to racial equality or racial injustice or whatever you want to say. There were only 2 people that set the world on fire: Martin Luther King and George Floyd. 2.
Well, that's a great point.
Everybody went bananas. They were in England, Italy, France. They were in Africa. They were in Sweden. They were going off.
Can I say Can I say something?
Wait, 1 second. 1 second before you say something. A user Bruce, help me out here. A user just put up a thing asking who you guys are. So I want to be clear because they were like, who are these people? Because you guys are saying really provocative things. Are they friends of Rob? No, they're not friends of mine. So I think just for a second, I want people to know who each of you are and why your voice matters. You're not just three random black guys that, ran into on the street. So give me 25, 30 seconds succinctly as you can that explains to a viewer why you're speaking for yourself, but also representative. So Stacey, start with you, and I'll give you the short version. You actually ran a rehab center for people coming out of jail for a long time, a big one in Atlanta. And you now do what?
Well, right now I have a non-emergency medical transportation company. I also have a staffing agency that employ about 60 people. I also had about 220 people that came through my drug rehab program that was not government funded, that I funded out of my own pocket. So at the end of the day, I'm really glad to be on this platform because I deserve to be, because I'm employed enough people to make an economic change so they can have a fair chance.
And you're a musician with a following.
And I'm a musician.
So an artist with a following. Go ahead, VLand. Again, the credential for a viewer who's suddenly going, who are you to talk about this?
Yeah. I haven't worked for nobody. I worked for myself since I was 21. And so everything that I do, I'm like the middleman, the broker for athletes and entertainers. I bring business people to athletes and mix because I understand both sides of them. So I bridge the gap and whatever it is, whether it's deals or whatever it is, I'm the networker, you could say, like consultant.
You have done a lot of business dealings with a lot
of
big
different athletes, entertainers,
with a lot of big name black entertainers.
Right, a lot of them, black and white.
But but I'm just saying.
I know what I'm saying. That money, because it's a lot of people that are in the call because it's only 12 or 14% of Black America. All the change, we're gonna need some good white people to help us.
No, I know.
Okay, I'm just
saying for the viewer who's questioning why can you speak for Black people, and Greg, will get to you in a second. But obviously, Stacey, you also have been, you've been, a big activist in on the ground in your community in a trying to build something way and sort of have a voice, having really worked and now kind of very an advocate in that way. Go ahead, Glenn, give me the 30-second why you would be a person who someone should listen to. You're not just a friend of mine.
30 seconds could be like 2 minutes, but I'll make it 30 seconds. Born and raised in New York, Queens. No relations to the cockroach Trump, not at all. No respect. But at the same time, I was raised by some militant uncles. Shout out to my Uncle Donnie and my Uncle Richard. My pops kept me grounded from South Carolina. My mom's military. Yeah, go ahead.
Glenn, I'm going to interrupt you for time because you're leaving out the part that, again, these people are looking for why you are a voice.
Oh, I'm getting there.
No. Oh. You were in their prime when you were in the military and then in the police force. You became kind of a name. Like they were literally building platforms to send you out as a kind of a voice and a promoter.
Yeah, when I became an officer in Jacksonville, where Rob is at right now, I served on the JSO, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and I was a drug advocate. I actually did Say No to Drugs programs where I toured throughout the entire state of Florida and Georgia, basically performing, being flown in on Apache helicopters and so forth and such. Moved to Atlanta because pretty much the balance of racial equality was better for me and a better fit here in Atlanta than it was in Jacksonville. Jacksonville has changed a lot. My family is still there, and I've seen them online clicking in. But at the same time, it's just, it's easier here.
And I appreciate that. But I just wanted people to understand you each are a legitimate voice.
Oh, yeah,
in your community. That's all I'm getting at. Because they were like, who are these guys?
I was born in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, a Grady baby. And I moved to Florida 15 years ago. So, I'm just letting you know. So I actually grew up Bankhead, West Fulton High School.
Right. And
Stacey, when you grew up, the name, Bankhead,
Stacey, you grew up the hood, right?
Millersville, Georgia.
Say that again.
Millersville, Georgia.
Oh, Millersville. I went to Savannah State. So
that's the country. That's the
country. You grew up country poor.
Yeah.
But you both grew up, Stacey and Veland, you both grew up poor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Glenn, No.
I don't think I was poor.
We didn't. None of us thought we were poor.
Yeah.
You look back. You go back.
Guys, I want to play this clip real quick. I want to get it in, and we'll comment on it. It's a clip of what happened in Beverly Hills the other day. A Versace exec works for a Versace designer, comes out and gets stopped by the cops, and he videos it. Right. It's a minute-long clip. Check it out.
So we were over here and we saw you walk across the red hand over here, so we just wanted to make sure, like, what's going on? How come you did that? You don't want to wait for the light?
What did I do? I'm like a little like startled.
Right here, Rodeo?
Oh, I jaywalked, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So we saw you, but we were going to stop you over here, but then we decided we were just going to come this way and talk to you. How come you did that, man?
I jaywalked. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to say.
But you don't have any weapons or anything, right?
I don't. I'm like super nervous because.
No, I get you, man. That's right. I'm not putting you in handcuffs or anything.
You want to take my phone or something like that?
No, you can hold on to it.
Right.
I don't want to.
So what do you want me to do right now?
I just wanted to see if you had any ID, but without reaching into your pockets.
I do have an ID.
Awesome. Do you have any weapons or anything?
I do not.
Okay. Do you mind if I just?
You can do whatever you need to do, man. I'm just nervous. Can I put down my phone at least?
Absolutely. Yeah. No worries, man. What's your name?
Salehi.
All right, I'm Officer Krug, man.
Nice to meet you, bro.
I'm just gonna check to make sure you don't have any weapons if you don't mind. Okay. Face that way real quick. Put your hands behind your back, palms together like you're praying.
What's unfortunate is like I literally designed the shoes that are in this bag, and I'm being like searched for. Really? Yeah, I do.
That's why I'm not. That's why, like I said, man, you're not in handcuffs or anything. I'm just talking to you right now. Okay.
I do, and I'm just walking down the street. It's a little ridiculous.
Well, like I told you though, why, right? Just because.
I understand, but the pat down feels excessive. So what else can I do for you guys?
No, just relax, man. Like I said, you
can
just
turn around.
Absolutely, yeah.
So is that okay? Wow. Go ahead.
Let me say something. Yeah, that was Beverly Hills. That's my favorite city. Yeah. LA. Yeah, my favorite city. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna fake it, y'all. So my point is that my point to Glenn is how do we break that blue code? You see what I'm saying? So it don't matter. You see what I'm saying?
He got to file a complaint. Yeah, he has to file a complaint, and it has to continue. It can't just be written off, and it can't be done. He has to file a complaint. Eventually, that officer is going to do one time too many. And when he does,
so question for you guys: was the officer out of line?
For searching, for jaywalking, yeah, write him a ticket. Call it a day. That's it. There's no need for none of that.
Okay, so here's my thing, and I want to say this because I reacted the same way, like what the, and then I thought about it, and this is why I think. So I had a very similar situation happen to me in Vegas. I was parked in my car. I was in a driveway that I thought was like a roadway right next to a casino, and I was sitting. I got out of the car. I was making a phone call. I don't remember. I got back. The cops suddenly. I got in the car. The cops flipped on a light and got me out of the car. And if I do something wrong, they're like, "You're not supposed to be parked here." I'm like, "Oh, well, I thought it was a little roadway. I didn't know." And they did exactly what they did to him. And I had the same reaction. I was like, "I'm feeling kind of nervous." They're like, "Do you have weapons on you?" I'm like, "No, I don't have weapons on me." They're like, "Can we search you?" I'm like, "Well, can I?" And they're like, "Turn around, put your hands against the car." And I'm literally against the car. And they're like, "I'm like," and they're like, "We're not arresting you. We're merely searching you." And I was like, "Why are you doing this?" And I thought, they think I had a beanie on. I think they think I look like I shouldn't be there. And my guess is those cops thought he looked like he shouldn't be there. Is that fair?
That's exactly what happened. But again, it's just still jaywalking.
I'm not saying it's okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
it wasn't anything major.
Him and said he shouldn't be there. He said I was parked in a thing. They're like, this guy
was very polite too, wasn't he? Very intelligent, well spoken, right?
but can you tell what made it right though? Could you guys tell? What made it right was he agreed to it. Don't agree. When they say, "Can I search you?" You say no. They say you have ID. You say yes. Now here's the dilemma. He's scared that you have weapons or don't have weapons, as you told him, but your ID is in your pocket. So now the cop has a choice. The cop has to either let you get your ID so you can hand him the ID so he can write you the ticket. As soon as you say no, and the body cam was on. So that's the biggest downfall for cops nowadays is the body cam. They can't stand it.
So just so I'm clear, if I say no, right, as I understand it, I can say no, and I do have to show them ID.
If you violated the law, yes.
Because I jaywalk. If I'm just walking down the street, I don't. But since I jaywalk, I have to show ID.
But you said something about a parking garage. Was it a parking garage on private property, or was it government property? Or
No,
was it
I think I was, in my case, I wasn't supposed to be parked there, but I didn't know. But so technically they had a right to search.
But if it's private property, they don't have a right.
Okay, okay, good point. That I didn't know that. But wait, back to the Versace guy. So Stacey, you would agree that so do you either of you disagree with that? That interesting point, Glenn, going, don't say yes. But then I the guys going, if I don't say yes, they might just shoot me because it happened too many times. Like,
not with the body cam on.
They're going to shoot you.
But I think that he handled it perfect. I think the Versace guy handled it perfect. At the end of the day, he let him know that he was uncomfortable with what was going on. He complied and did what was asked of him, and he walked off. Because whether you got a body cam on or not, if you want to kill somebody and this thing you want to do something, you're gonna do it. It don't matter about a body cam. We don't see body cam. You know that's whether you had it. So I think everything was done correctly. But like you said, if he feel that it was incorrect, you go and make a complaint. But I think
okay, fair enough. But we're almost out of time. But at the same time, I get frustrated with the make a complaint thing. It's like, well, yeah, you should make a complaint, but they shouldn't behave that way. And at a certain level, I mean, we've given police officers. I don't think it's always racial. We've given police officers a sense that they're allowed to do whatever they want. Trust me, if you're a white guy and you get in a cop's face, they literally like, do not question me.
It depends. I've seen it several times, though.
They put you in charge of the world.
Right. V-Land?
Yeah, what I was saying is that to me is that if that cop thought that he could be making a mistake or get in trouble for that, it'll be a little different. See, there's no consequences for them, even if they was wrong or right. Because if they stop the wrong white person that knows some people, they'll think quick that they can get them fired or get them something. See, that's what I'm saying.
Man, I should have gone and complained. I know some people. Go ahead, Stacey.
Yes. What I look at is this.
We got 2 minutes left, you guys.
Okay. What I look at is this. You have to look at the state of the world, whether it's a black or white cop or it's a black or white man. Each person come out wanting to go back home to their families. So I think sometimes people react the wrong way, whether it be the cop or whether it be the civilian. So a lot of times, because the same situation, let's say, for instance, if they white man and they frisk him down and he pull out and start wanting to kill everybody, you just never know. So we're in a world that's so dangerous that a lot of people make the wrong move at the wrong time.
Hey guys, I literally got a minute left, so you get like 15 seconds each. I'm going to ask you a question that's not fair for 15 seconds, but I still want to put it out there. How do we get white people to feel more comfortable having these kind of conversations? Because let's be honest, most white people be afraid to have this conversation because they think they're going to say something wrong. I may say something wrong. I don't care. I'm putting it out there, right? Would you agree white people are a little scared to have these honest conversations with black people overall?
I feel the conversation needs to happen. I think it needs to be more open dialogue with generational, not just white, right, not just black, but just generational.
But do you think white people tend to be a little afraid to have it?
I think so. Yeah, deep down, because it's deep rooted, and they feel bad about what happened, and they were born into this. Into this is privilege. They were born into privilege.
Do you guys, V-Land or Stacey, do you like having it? Are you annoyed deep down at white people sometimes? Just like, you don't get it, or do you not care? I mean, we all see color, so I mean,
I stop white people all the time to have this conversation. I really do. I'm like kind of semi-retired, so literally, this is a hobby of mine. Really, I really be on get a whole group because I'm in Florida where I'm at, like in Atlanta. I'm around more white people now than I am black. So I'm in every restaurant I go to, everything, not on purpose.
And Stacey, you to me remind me of a mindset that's a little Malcolm X-like. And a little bit. And I've always said Malcolm X was kind of like, don't count on white people. And you don't even have to like those white people. Let's create black power. Malcolm X didn't particularly love white people. He was just like, they screwed us. Don't expect them to fix us. But so do you fundamentally sort of, when you look at white people, because we got to be all honest in this conversation, is it like tired of the questions? It's good to have the dialogue,
Once again, because of two cracked foundations, it'll never be a subconscious or a conscious conversation worth having, because you'll never come to the right ground. Because black, I feel we were slaves, and whites feel like, hey, we had slaves. So how can you have a real conversation and come to a real common ground when both foundations are cracked?
Got it.
It's hard to come to a common ground because subconsciously we're gonna feel a certain way.
Yeah. So, right. So we're not right. So you're saying, right, can't come to common ground. Does that mean we're never going to get to common ground?
I don't think we'll ever get to common ground. How?
Well, if we don't get
Jesus.
to common ground, we're screwed.
How?
Jesus.
I'm saying,
You guys, we got to figure out a way. I'm going to challenge you. We got to try to get to common ground.
Yeah,
the only way to get to common ground is accepting the differences. And if we practice what we preach and truly use forgiveness and say, we forgive you for what you've done to us and we're going to let it go. See, that's the only way to get a common ground. Somebody got to be forgiven.
Right.
But
we have to start at a conversation, you're right.
Hold on, but who's going to be a spiritual movement don't take a conversation. Or forgiveness don't take a conversation. That's an internal thing. Conversations internally, you got to figure out how can you forgive somebody really. You know how hard it is to really forgive somebody?
Yeah, I do. All right, you guys, listen, we are sadly out of time, but I am going to challenge you that I think we do have, yes, we made a spiritual movement, but we need common ground, everybody. I mean, and I appreciate what all three of you guys had to say. It's really powerful, really valuable, really great voices. For me, a great conversation. But I'm challenging everybody out there. I think Stacy makes a good point that we have to start finding forgiveness. If you're on the white side of the scale, I think you have to start finding an acceptance to stop always sort of trying to find out why the people who are black are saying this and go, well, I don't know. Just try giving it a shot and go, you know what? Maybe just their experience lets them know something I don't know, and I need to accept it and not push back against it and go, well, you shouldn't. Why do you? And give there some give and take there. But to everybody, if we can't find common ground around race, the protests and the riots may be over for now. But if the next generation can't find common ground, we're in real trouble. And the thing is, I believe they can. I believe the millennials, and I believe our generations before that, I'm Gen X, can contribute to that we actually can find common ground. We're never going to get past all our differences. We're never going to be all the same and actually move past some of these problems to actually a better future that's got more social equity, more economic equity, but it's going to take all of us coming together, and it starts with the dialogue. I'm Rob Nelson. Thanks for watching. It's Rob Nelson Live.